Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'll show you how to replace the power and volume button flex cables on a Realme 5i. As you can see here, pressing the power button doesn't do anything, and neither do the volume buttons. If you're having this issue, stick around, we're going to fix it together. Before we start, make sure you have a plastic card or your fingernail to remove the back cover, a small screwdriver, and, of course, the replacement flex cables. Let's get right into it. First, we're going to remove the back cover. For the Realme 5i, you can use your fingernail or a plastic card. Slide it between the back cover and the frame, and gently work around the edges. Take your time, applying firm but gentle pressure. You might hear some clicks, that's just the clips releasing. With the back cover off, let's look at the power and volume flex cables, which are located along the side and connect to the mainboard. Over time, these cables can wear out or get damaged. Let's zoom in for a closer look to see if there's any visible damage. In many cases, damage might not be obvious, but if your buttons aren't working, the flex cable is often the culprit. To reach the flex cables, we need to carefully remove the mainboard, which is secured with several small screws around the edges. Take a small Phillips head screwdriver and start unscrewing each one, turning slowly and applying even pressure so you don't strip the screws. There may be a handful of these screws to take out, so it's a good idea to work in a systematic way, keeping track of where each one goes. I recommend placing them in a small container or on a magnetic pad to avoid losing them. They're very small and easy to misplace. Now, as you lift, go slowly. Because there are delicate connectors attached to the mainboard that can be damaged if you're not careful. We don't want to pull too quickly and accidentally snap a cable or bend anything. Carefully wiggle the mainboard free, keeping an eye on any connectors. It should lift smoothly if you're gentle. Once it's free, you'll have full access to the flex cables, which we'll be replacing next. With the mainboard safely out of the way, we now have complete access to the power and volume flex cables. These cables are typically secured with a light adhesive to keep them in position, so it's essential to handle this step with care. Using a tool, gently slide it under the edge of the damaged flex cable and begin lifting it slowly. Be sure to work gradually, as the adhesive may offer a bit of resistance. If you're feeling some pull, that's completely normal. Once you've loosened the adhesive and have lifted the cable out, you can see the old flex cable comes out relatively smoothly. This small cable is what's responsible for connecting the volume buttons to the phone's mainboard, and the power button is on the other side that will be replaced too, and as you can see, even minor damage to this part can make those buttons completely non-responsive. With the old cable out, we're now ready to move on to installing the replacement and restoring full functionality to the phone. Here's the damaged volume flex cable we just removed. You can see signs of wear, with completely damaged, which is why the volume buttons weren't working. Compare it to the new flex cable. Carefully peel off the protective backing from the adhesive. Be gentle here, you want the adhesive to stay clean and intact so it can hold securely once we install it. With the adhesive exposed, we're ready to place it onto the frame. Carefully align the flex cable, making sure it lines up with the original spot. Position it precisely, as we want it to fit snugly without covering any other components. Once you've aligned it, gently press down along the length of the cable to make sure the adhesive holds firmly to the frame. A light but firm press is enough to secure it, no need to press too hard. Now that it's in place, give it a quick check to make sure it's secure and properly aligned. This new flex cable is now set and ready to connect to the mainboard, restoring full functionality to the volume buttons. Now, we're going to replace the power button flex cable, just like we did with the volume flex. With our new power and volume flex cables securely in place, it's time to reinstall the mainboard. Carefully position it back over the connectors, ensuring everything aligns as it should. Gently press down so the mainboard sits snugly without forcing anything into place. Now that the mainboard is secure, it's time to test the new cables. Let's power up the phone and check if the buttons are working perfectly. Great news! The moment of truth, the power button works perfectly. After all that careful work, it's really satisfying to see it responding just as it should. Now, with the power button working, let's move on to test the volume button. Fingers crossed that it's just as smooth. Alright, let's give everything one final test. Starting with the power button. Perfect. It's working flawlessly. And now the volume buttons, just as smooth. Both the power and volume buttons are responding exactly as they should. It's such a great feeling knowing we successfully replaced the flex cables ourselves and brought this phone back to full functionality. It goes to show that with a little patience, you can handle these repairs right at home. Thank you all for joining me on this DIY repair journey. I hope this guide was helpful and gave you the confidence to tackle similar repairs. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video or found it useful. I always love hearing from you, so feel free to drop any questions or suggestions for future videos. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.